provider meeting on Friday?
Yeah, usually Paul goes to those. That's the one in Cartersville, right?
Yeah, I'm going to make an announcement of some changes, though.
Yeah, I'll make sure, but he usually attends those.
Okay. I think I'm going to cut the CSB group and all the group that comes to the System of Care meeting down to the System of Care meeting. It's becoming duplicative for y'all.
Yeah.
Hello, it's Jan and Lynn Smith. Dan, I'm driving. Can one of y'all take minutes or something for this? Because I can't do that and be on the road. If there's anything that we have to, you know, if there's a decision of any kind. Mr. Fettner, Ms. Margaret's on the phone, Adam Ralston, Lookout Mountain, and myself.
Okay.
I'm actually going to put my phone on mute if you'll greet everybody because the road noise will get loud.
Okay. All right, I've got 102, so let me take a roll call and then we'll get started. So we'll start with Lookout Mountain.
It's Jan Lewis and Lynn Smith.
Good afternoon. This is Tom and Michael.
Hey, Tom and Michael.
How you doing?
We're just taking roll call right now.
Okay.
So, all right, is that all for Lookout Mountain? Jan, Lynn, Dr. Ford, and Michael. That should be it.
That should be it from Lookout Mountain.
Okay. Debbie from my office. And who else?
Margaret.
Adam from Laurelwood. Okay. Anyone else? Adam, do you know if Jamie's going to be on? I haven't heard from her, but I'm going to email her right now.
Miss Margaret's on the call.
Okay.
Margaret, did you do roll call?
Yes.
Okay, let's go ahead and get started. I would hope Jamie would be able to give us an update on his health condition, on Joe's health condition. To recap from last week, the attending doctor believed that Joe could tend to his basic needs assistance with showering and need 24-hour supervision. And based on that level of care, Lookout Mountain was to proceed to locate a residential setting and start hiring 24-hour staffing. And that's where we are. If we had an update from the medical center, that would be good. In the meantime, Dr. Ford, if you will give us an update on the residential situation.
So we've got the facility that we had, about a year ago, we had rented until Joe began to have some increasing medical needs and ended up in the hospital. That facility is available. It's the same landlord that operates one of our CLA homes, and is the landlord for that. So we were looking at that, and one of the issues, we just need to go down and have our staff look at that to see. It will probably need some renovations. We will go ahead and retain it if it can be renovated for Joe's needs, because it's clear that he's probably going to need wheelchair use at times, and that it is a small house, and it's obviously, you know, an old small house that's going to need some renovation, but certainly the landlord has done renovations before for one of his other homes. We'll just need to see how much and talk with him this week. So we'll get with him on that.
Okay. And then what would be the next step?
Well, we're going to start, I mean, obviously we'll start looking at recruiting for staff there. I mean, that's the main thing, is to get the staff and get the licensure for that facility, because what we want to do is get a license as a CLA, since we're going to have nursing involvement in there. We've got that to start, we'll start recruiting for those staff. We'll put an announcement out this week.
And the home would need licensure authorization?
Yes. Yes, it would need to be licensed at least as a CLA, so that we can, you know, basically meet those requirements. We'll need to meet those. We've got some staff in our DD program that we're going to reach out to today and get them to help us with that.
Okay. So there's still a lot of uncertainty, which prevents us creating a specific timeline of moving Joe.
Well, at least to our facility, I mean, one possibility would be if he could move to Benchmark, and Michael could reach out to them and see if they would be willing to take him in the interim.
And Jamie mentioned last call that they may be considering moving him to a nursing home just as a temporary placement. Do we know if they're still pursuing that?
Jamie just emailed me and said she didn't have the call-in number, so I just sent it to her, so she should be calling in, and we can ask her that question.
Ms. Margaret, do you have any questions or concerns?
Yes, I was down there to see Joe about a week ago, I guess last week, on a Tuesday, and he seemed to be doing real good, and he seemed to have recovered a lot, and they're giving him rehab. And he's walking some with a walker, but his legs are still very weak, but he looked real good, and he was real happy, and so he's come a long ways, and he's very lonely. He wants to be back close to the family. You know, all of his brothers and sisters has to work, and if they didn't work, they wouldn't survive. And then they pay a lot of taxes too, which keeps the government going, you know. And if it wasn't for Joe's family, a lot of them working and paying taxes, so, you know, and then, you know, when they tried that nursing home before down there, he wound up back in the hospital from malnutrition, and they had to give him blood, and so since he's been back in the hospital, he seems to have improved tremendously. And they've not had to give him any blood or put him on oxygen again or nothing. So I know they can't work with a person one-on-one in a nursing home.
We'll get an update from Jamie in just a moment.
I just got here, Mr. Fettner. I'm sorry. I kind of missed all of Ms. Hawkins' conversation.
Sounded like she was seeing Joe making progress and being able to take care of his needs better.
Yes, I sent all that to Jerry, and we had that same discussion last week about how he was improving.
As far as the plans we discussed last week, Lookout Mountain pursuing a residential setting with 24-hour supervision and whatever clinical care he needs. Lookout Mountain told us they found a home. It may need some modification in order to be handicap accessible, and that they will also have to apply for a community living arrangements license. And so we're proceeding in that vein, but it's still too soon to give you, Jamie, a discharge date.
Yeah, that was my next question. When is this going to take place?
Well, it's underway now, and unfortunately, it is a time-consuming process, but
so there's the home that's been found. You'll have to do modifications and then hire the people, or is the family agreeing to provide the care?
no, I don't think the family is an option right now.
No, I mean the host family. Where are we going? To personal care?
No,
Or,
it's going to be a staffed home,
oh, okay.
and they'll be recruiting staff as the renovation and licensure proceeds.
Well, can I ask a question? I know you can't give an exact timeline, but we're talking 6 months at a minimum. What are we talking?
Michael, Tom, y'all want to venture a guess?
I don't think 6 months. That's probably an outside. Once again, this is dependent on the state and obviously how much, if any, renovations. One, we had to make sure this home can be renovated to the level necessary for Joe. It is a small home. If not, then we are going to talk with the landlord today or tomorrow to see if there are other facilities he may have in that area, and we can look at other options. But just dealing with that, the renovations and getting the licensure, yeah, you're talking a couple of months, 2 to 3 months. Nothing goes fast when you're dealing with the state and licensure.
Well, if that be the case, then I have to ask Ms. Hawkins, is she okay with Joe going back to New Horizons? Because he can't live here another 3 months.
What do you mean, New Horizons? You're talking about Horizons?
Nursing home.
Oh, okay.
The one he was at before?
New Horizons North.
Yes.
One of the ones that is owned by the hospital. We own 2, New Horizons North or West. Because this is going to be a long process. So
he won't be back in the same nursing home he was before where y'all sent him to.
We've only sent him to New Horizons North.
Well,
He would either be at New Horizons North or New Horizons Linear Park, whichever one has a bed for him.
Jamie, she had presented some concerns, this Adam, that he was malnourished and he had to come back to the hospital and get some blood. So she had some concerns about that facility, and I don't know if you can speak to that. I don't know if that is really what happened or if something else happened.
I will have to let me look in the H&P. I don't I don't think it was malnourishment. I think it was aspiration, which is Joe.
Well, they told me he was malnourished, and that's why he was back in there, and they called me, and I had to agree for him to take blood. It was malnutrition. And like I said, I know they can't work with him one-on-one in there, and he was just kind of turned loose after going through all the feeding tubes, everything in the hospital, and they probably didn't have it staffed enough to assist Joe in what he needed in there. And then they really, I don't think, were trained to handle Joe, because he's a special case. And he tries to make friends, and you know, he was in there, he knew he was in there with the elderly people, and he just didn't know how to handle being in the nursing home. It just did not work out. This has been tried 2 or 3 times, and somehow or another he always falls sick, and that's not going to be good if you put him back in there and they're not taking care of him right, and he winds back up in the hospital again.
I'm still trying to pull his H&P up, so.
I think we understand those concerns. The challenge is he really doesn't need to live on a hospital medical floor for the next 2-3 months, depending on how long this is going to take with the state. That's just not a good place for him or anybody else when they're medically okay. They're doing okay. They really don't need to live on a medical floor. So that's why we're looking at some other options. And I appreciate the concerns that you're presenting, and I know history, apparently he doesn't do as well in some of those settings, but at the same time, he can't continue to stay on the medical floor. So we're just looking at some options.
Well, I think in the end, one way or the other, everything's just going to have to work out for Joe and for all of us, because it's very difficult for all of us in his care. And me being his mother, you know, of course, I love my son like I've stated before, and I'm very concerned in his level of care. And I've seen so much happen to him over the years till, you know, I have a right to be very concerned. And
yes, ma'am.
And so, as any of y'all would be, if it was y'all's child, if you love your children, you're going to be real concerned about them and do what you can to help them.
Yes, ma'am, I understand that. However,
And I know you're in a difficult situation, but you know, I want to move forward. I want Joe to be taken care of for the rest of his life and the rest of my life, and that's just my main concern. I want him to be close to where I can get to him and visit him, because being 122 miles, and I know his heart's been broken over and over and over because of family, or I had to work and I couldn't get there, and it's just been so hard for me and so hard for Joe, and it's been hard for the medical staff, and I appreciate everybody being so good to Joe. I really do, and I know some has went out of their way for Joe at the hospital. And so I just, you know, and I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart.
Margaret?
Yes.
It's Jamie again. This admission was, he came in with aspiration pneumonia.
I know.
So he aspirated, I guess, something over at the nursing home. Suspect early aspiration pneumonia. And I think the doctors have discussed with you in the past that this is going to continue for Joe till whenever, unless, you know, we get his diet right and somebody stands and helps him eat and stuff. You can't give him, unfortunately, hamburgers and stuff all the time, because that's not the diet that he's been ordered. And I don't know what diet he was on when he was up there or anything like that, but
can I ask a question?
That was the issue. And also, when you indicated that he received blood, he had an EGD where they run the light down your throat back in January, and that showed some esophagitis and some erosion of his esophagus. So that's where the bleeding probably was coming from, and so that's why they just gave him the extra blood.
I want to ask a question so I can catch up. It's my understanding from previous meetings when he left Laurelwood, he had gone to the Benchmark Crisis Home and with the intent to stay there until the personal care home or the host home had been secured. And so did he aspirate while he was at the nursing home or when he was at Benchmark? I'm confused.
He aspirated at Benchmark, not the nursing home.
Okay. Because he had not had any aspirations, and we didn't have any concerns about that while he was here at Laurelwood. And then,
back in the hospital here, he's not had those issues as well.
Okay. Okay. I was getting confused that he had gone to a nursing home between Benchmark and his hospital stay, and I just wanted to clarify that.
This is Michael. It was my understanding that he left the nursing home because of his behavior and the risk that he imposed to other patients there.
Yeah, that's my recollection, Michael.
That's correct.
So, I have no idea what happened at Benchmark because I know they had contracted out to hire some CNAs and was going to provide 24/7 care, and I'm not really sure what happened there, but we're kind of right back where we started when we started having these conversations here at Laurelwood when he was in the hospital or here at Laurelwood. So I don't know what the best option is, but again, Ms. Hawkins, I just don't think it's not really fair to Joe either to stay on the medical floor in the hospital, and while he may be getting lots of attention, that's not the least restrictive environment for anybody. I really feel like we need to try something again, a setting that would be temporary until we can secure this COA and get him closer to home.
So you recommend?
I recommend that Lookout Mountain pursue this home and get a firm direction of what work's got to be done and what time frame. If it's too extensive, then look for another home. But proceed with the notion that he's got to come home or come back to the Lookout Mountain area. And under the best circumstances, we're looking at 2 to 3 months. And in the meantime, the Northeast Hospital will have to make a decision in cooperation, in conjunction with Ms. Hawkins, to place him in a nursing home with the understanding it's temporary. And at this point, Jamie, as far as, I think the decision's now in your court as to what to do in the temporary time period.
Well, let me ask you this. When you say that you're waiting for further direction of the work that would be required at this particular home, and then if the work's too much, are going to look for another home. So therefore, does that extend it out another 2 to 3 months? Or are we hoping you're saying that this process will be handled within 3 months?
No, I think we've got to pursue this, whether it's this home or the next home, that 2 to 3 months is the outside for whichever location.
And that's what we're looking at.
So if y'all can make an appropriate arrangements for Joe's needs and keep Ms. Hawkins informed with the anticipation of 3 months, then let's proceed accordingly.
So, Margaret, are you okay with me seeing if our nursing home has a bed for Joe?
Well, yes, ma'am, because it, from what I have just heard, that whether they can keep him, whether you can get Benchmark to go back in there and help with Joe in the nursing home, I don't know. I don't have any control over that, but I think it would be very wise if, you know, if they could provide somebody just to work with Joe down there in the nursing home again, because, you know, like Michael said a while ago, you know, they were scared because Joe began to get better and he began to get active, and he don't know no better to hit somebody.
Well, I believe that would be a call on Mr. Fettner's part to get Benchmark to go back to the nursing home if I can secure a bed. I don't think that's my responsibility to get them back in there.
Yeah, well,
we will pursue that with Benchmark and see what assistance they can provide.
I think it would be a very wise decision to have somebody there that's trained to kind of work with Joe, because he goes long periods of time and he may be real good, but he's always going to have this illness, and we all know it takes a specially trained person to deal with Joe, but his little episodes doesn't last long, and most time he's pleasant, but he's always going to be sick. He's never going to be right again.
So I understand that you're giving me the verbal okay to see if we have a bed.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Fettner, or is it Tom? Would it be possible, I know y'all going to speak to a landlord today or tomorrow, is it possible just to get email update to say, yeah, it looks like we've, you know, got the facility and we are going to pursue some of these modifications, or we've got to look at another potential facility, just to keep us up to speed. I know we could wait till the next conference call, but it would just help to give us a little more real time, and it'll help our nursing home staff to know that we are pursuing this very actively, and that would just be helpful to get a more real time update, if that's possible.
Sure, we can do that.
That'd be great. Thank you.
So this is how we'll proceed, and Lookout Mountain will give everyone email updates as something definitive is made aware. In the meantime, we'll schedule another conference call for 1 o'clock next Monday. Anything else? All right, thank y'all, and we'll proceed and hopefully make some progress.
Thank you, Mr. Fettner.
Thank y'all.
Thanks.